Okay, good. Oh, land.
These things are always so stressful like this. I feel
All
like
right.
it just is always like this. I'm not very good at this stuff either yet, so it's all very, very new to me.
All right. I have both screens up. If it doesn't go live automatically, I've got my finger on the pulse of the world. Now, the last time we did this, God, my hair looks awful. That's why at least I've stopped coughing. I went to the doctor today and it was just my regular Medicare thing, but I was still coughing and it's just good old long COVID. It just won't give up.
Oh, I know. It's so bad. We've been sick. This was actually the first day in like, I don't know, 2 weeks that I felt remotely normal.
Really.
I got on an antibiotic. This is like my second day of the antibiotic.
Oh, okay.
That's why Melissa was texting me earlier how sick she was. I'm like, you've been sick longer than I have.
Yeah, she needs to be on an antibiotic.
It's
All
just
right.
amazing.
All we need is our speaker. One of the
Well,
questions we'll have for him is I heard a ding. Where'd
that
that
was
come?
my phone.
Okay.
I was gonna go check my email and see if he maybe is communicating through there.
Okay.
But what was one of the questions you were saying?
Oh, if he wants his face up while he's presenting.
I'm thinking he will, just because I've seen a bunch of I went and looked at a lot of his different,
It de- it
shows and things that
depends.
he's done. He's pretty charismatic.
Yeah. The problem is it's harder to see what's on the PowerPoint slides
Yes,
unless he knows they're big enough.
correct. Yeah, there's no email or anything. So,
Okay.
um,
Well, at 7:30 you and I do a song and dance no matter what. So
I guess she did. I mean, she asked him to come on a bit early.
yeah. I'm going to go ahead and get on Facebook. Which link did you use to get to stream? Oh, you were in before.
I used the one that Melissa sent to Todd.
Okay. If you got in, then he can get in. Okay.
Yep, that's the one I used, and I just sat here in the background until you let me in.
I have control.
I guess you got all kinds of buttons. I have no idea how they work.
Oh, jeez.
So if something happens, Pat, and I've still got a naggy cough that sometimes ruins my life.
And between the two of us, yes, I'll jump on. And
Yeah, if I have to jump off or something super quick,
if he's talking, we've got no problem.
no, not then. And you'll help monitor the comments and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I opened up my phone.
Yeah.
This last illness, was this COVID or flu or cold or?
I think it was a flu. We tested negative for COVID, but it was more like the flu.
I I was going to get my COVID shot and my flu shot today,
Oh boy.
but she said, well, you have to get rid of that cough first. It's like I've been
Yeah.
trying to get these 2 shots since before Christmas.
Yeah.
I had
Oh, it's going around. It's so bad right now.
well, right before Christmas, I had a plugged ear and I was afraid I had an ear infection. So I didn't get the shots.
Sure. Yeah.
Went to urgent care. Turns out it was just plugged. Now,
Okay.
mind you, it was plugged for weeks.
Oh, geez.
So this wasn't just a normal, my ears stuffed up kind of thing. It was, so that's why I really thought it was an ear infection. So anyway,
Yeah.
okay. So then I missed out getting the shots before going home for Christmas. So then I get COVID on Christmas Day because the whole family got it. We had a major casualty event.
Yeah, I've been a part of them before too. That's no fun.
Yeah. So so then I get COVID and can't get the shot. So then I thought, well, I'm okay now. I'm just coughing. It should be okay.
Yeah. It never goes away. You just cough forever.
And then she says, no, you better wait to get the. And it's like, oh. Then I realized, okay, I'm covered for COVID, at least for a while, but not the flu, not RSV.
No, the flu is rampant right now too. And it's a bad one. Like it'll lay you up for, I bet we've been sick 10, 12 days.
I am.
I mean, sick. Like,
oh, I know. I had
yeah.
flu a few years ago, and this was even after getting a vaccine. But it was when it covered A, not B very well or something. And so, of course, I got the alternative flu. And same thing, like you said, it was 2 solid weeks. And
yeah. So I see a little countdown button came up. What's that about? Is that how soon before we go live?
Does it say 7:52, 3, 4, 5? No, that's how long StreamYard's been live. But we're just feeding over to Facebook right now.
Oh, I see. Now Facebook said it's starting, and it's starting, Pat. We have no guest.
We shouldn't be starting yet.
It says starting in 2 minutes and counting down.
Yeah. Should start automatically because then there's my last little button should go say go live.
What are we going to do here if he doesn't show up?
Then you and I just talk for a few minutes and say sorry and
okay. Do you think I should text Melissa and ask her?
Yeah. Or respond. Do you have his email?
Let me see. I think he was in here, yeah. Yeah. What should I say?
We go on live in 2 minutes. Where are you?
All right. I said we go live in 2 minutes. Are you having trouble?
Yeah, that's good. Okay, we've got to quit saying silly stuff because we'll go live any second.
We'll go live before we know it.
That happened with Michelle and I, and it wasn't pretty.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Yeah.
All right. Not hearing from anything.
Okay. I think we're about to go live. We are live. Well, hi, Jean. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you, Pat?
I'm doing all right.
Good.
Is that Todd? Hey, Todd, how are you?
Oh, I'm a little rushed. I thought I could work it out on my Mac to do this, and it wouldn't work, so I had to go quick to my other laptop. So,
Well,
but we made it.
we're glad you're here. We've already gone live. So Jean and I were just chatting for a second. So Jean, I'm going to let you take over, and I'm going to leave the stage. So, looking
Sounds
forward
great.
to hearing all about it, Todd. Thanks for coming.
You bet.
Hi, Todd. My name is Jean Clark. We've heard
Nice
a
to
lot
meet you.
about you. I'd like to just take a minute to introduce you to our members. This is Todd Heitkamp. I hope I got your name right.
It's close. It's not bad.
And as I understand, you're the meteorologist in charge at the National Weather Service out in Sioux Falls.
That's correct. I've been in the Weather Service now for almost 40 years.
That's a long time. You have a lot of knowledge there.
Yeah, well, some people would probably beg to differ with you. You know, us weathermen don't get much respect, if you know what I mean.
As I understand, you're also the business owner of the Dakota Angler and the Dakota Ice Institute.
Yeah, we've the store Dakota Angler. I've owned that since 2001, and then the Ice Institute is the second largest ice fishing show, behind only to the St. Paul Ice Fishing Show, and we've had that now for 16 years now.
That's great. That's great. So, as I understand, you're here tonight to talk to us about how weather fronts and changes in the atmospheric pressure can affect fish.
Well, yeah, but before I get started on that, I want to tell me a little bit about you and your organization.
Oh, sure. Well, we are the Women Anglers of Minnesota. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have, I can't tell you exactly how many members we have, but it's well over 1,000.
1,100.
1,100.
There you go.
And we have, we really take a lot of pride in our give back programs. We give almost $30,000 per year to different organizations that help get women and children out there fishing. And so we have everyone who has just never fished before and just picked up a fishing pole for the first time, all the way down to the people who are being guides and running in the pro bass fishing tournaments and stuff like that. So we have a wide gamut of ladies who are in our club. We like to do fun events, tournaments, fundraisers, get-togethers, meetups, and then this, of what you're a part of here tonight, is part of our educational circuit, where we're just trying to broaden people's understanding of different topics, really, that come forward throughout the year. And one of them was, how do we understand this barometric pressure? And how come the fish always bite so good right before it rains? So we heard that you had some knowledge and might have some interesting facts or tidbits to share with us. I anticipate as we get going, we'll have folks ask questions. I hope it's okay, or would you like us to save those for the end?
No, I was just going to ask you, will the questions appear in my chat window at all, Gene, or will you just be relaying to me?
Yeah, you can, really whatever works best for you, but I'd be more than happy to just relay them to you if that's how you'd like to do it.
Yeah, whatever works out best for you. That's fine. This is all about you guys, and I appreciate the invite. Yeah, it's something that, growing up in Minnesota, I am a native Minnesotan. I grew up in Southwest Minnesota, and just to kind of give you a little background, as Gene kind of mentioned, I am a meteorologist. I got my degree from the University of Wisconsin, so I'm kind of a conflicted Minnesotan, if you know what I mean. I'm not a Gopher fan. I'm a Badger fan, so don't hold that against me. But I am a Viking fan and not a Packer fan, so maybe I have that going for me. But I've been with the Weather Service now for almost 40 years, and since I moved back to Sioux Falls from Denver, Colorado in 1994, I really, as I was introducing my kids to fishing, I started to realize how important the weather was, not only to our enjoyment, but to our success or failure when we're out on the ice or whether or not we're out in the boat. And I started working, and I don't know if a lot of people remember this name, but Tony Dean was a big avid sportsman in South Dakota, and he had the Tony Dean Show on TV. And him and I started doing a lot of research on how weather affects your success or failure when you're out there fishing. And Tony passed away a number of years ago. And then I also started working with Ted Takasaki and a number of other professional fishermen. But everyone knows that weather has a role to play in your fishing success. And, it's the one thing that we can't control. We have all the latest technology, whether or not you're talking about live scopes or, whatever it may be as far as sonar is concerned, or lures or rods, you name it. There's different things that we can throw in your toolbox to help you improve your success out there and maybe control that environment a little bit. But the one thing you can't control is the weather. And that's the one thing that really does probably play the biggest impact upon your success. And so my job has been to try to really educate people on how they can minimize those impacts or those effects that weather does play with it, or at least adjust your presentations to at least enhance the success that you may otherwise have. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to kind of talk a little bit about that, show you how you can be a little bit more weather-wise out there to figure out really what's going on, and then answer any questions that you may have. And Gene, tell me, how much time do we have?
We have about 45 minutes now.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, we'll get started. The first thing that, everyone has always talked about some of the wives' tales that are out there, that the fish bite best right before the storm, or wind from the west, the fish bite the best, wind from the east, fish bite the least. And that's all related to pressure. And all wind is determined by the difference in air pressure. And Lord knows, here in South Dakota and Minnesota, it's not so bad, especially if, let's say, you get north of Minneapolis, the wind isn't as bad. We don't have anything to stop the wind here in the Dakota. So the wind is the biggest factor out there, but it's all created by pressure, by the difference in pressure. And to help understand pressure is that we all feel pressure all the time. Pressure is basically the weight of the atmosphere on our shoulders. It's holding us down. It's pushing us down. If you have an older relative, or if you are now my age, I can remember my grandfather always telling me that he could tell when a storm was approaching because his knees or his joints started to ache. His arthritis started to ache. And that all has to do with the amount of fluid in your joints at that given time. And what affects that or impacts that is the barometric pressure. And so the barometric pressure is that weight of air upon a body of whatever, us, or a body of water. And that's where we can see that on a given day when we're out there fishing and you're watching especially during ice season, and you're watching your Vexilar and you're seeing that the fish come up to it, and you think, okay, here comes the bite, and here it's going to get ready to set the hook, and then the fish go right back down. Yeah. They're not interested in the bait at all. And so you start changing your lures. You start changing your bait. They'll still keep doing the same thing. They're curious, but they're not hungry enough to actually take the bait. And so what's going on is something that a lot of people don't really think about, because they go out on days where it's sunny, right? most people like to go outside and go out fishing when it's clear sky, sunny, not much wind. Guess what? That's when the pressure is the highest. On days when it's completely sunny and there's not what we call a high sky or a blue sky, the pressure is the highest. Or on the days when it's the coldest, and that's when the pressure is the highest. And so that weight of the atmosphere is highest at that point in time, and it's pushing down on that body of water. And the fish will actually feel the effects of that what they want to do is they want to swim around. They want to be buoyant. And that air bladder is what determines their buoyancy. And so what they'll do is when they feel the pressure getting higher, that air bladder will increase to make them become a little bit more buoyant. Well, when that air bladder increases, that takes up more space in their body. So they're not as hungry. They're inquisitive, they're curious, but they're not going to eat because they're stuffed. It's just like all of us going to a buffet one day, and then then later at 4 o'clock and at 6 o'clock, someone brings out dessert. Well, can I have dessert or not? I'm kind of stuffed, so I'm going to pass at that point in time. On days when there's low pressure, such as when there's a storm approaching, or a cold front is approaching, that's when the pressure is going to be lowest, and that's when the air bladder is going to be the smallest. And so those fish are on the prowl. They're hungry. They're looking for that bait. They're looking for something to eat. And those are the days where you're going to have the best success out on the ice or in your boat, because you're not having to do anything. You're not having to go look for those fish, those active fish. The fish are coming to you. And it doesn't matter what you do, what presentation you use, it's going to be successful. And a lot of times, what made me notice this most of all was I was on a lake with my two boys, and we were fishing, and a storm was approaching. You could see it off to the west. It was a thunderstorm in the middle of summer, and we were just hammering the walleyes. I mean, it was just one of those days that you can always remember. Didn't matter what we were doing, caught plenty of walleyes. Well, we got off the body of water before the storm approached, and then as the storm left the area, we went back out to that area and were doing the same thing. Guess what? Walleyes weren't there, and the walleyes weren't biting because the pressure had changed. The wind direction had changed. And so that all of a sudden you'll feel that where all of a sudden the clouds break up, and now you got clear skies behind it. The pressure starts to rise. The air bladder starts to increase in the fish. Now all of a sudden they're no longer hungry. So that's what you really need to do, is to figure out those days when the pressure is going to be highest or going to be lowest, and then determine what your presentation is going to be at that point in time. Because on those days when the pressure is the highest, you need to go looking for those active fish. You need to change up your presentation, maybe downsize it a little bit. In the summertime, instead of, a lot of times guys will sit there and, let's say, pull bottom bouncers or pull crankbaits. What are they doing? They're covering more water looking for those active fish, opposed to, let's say, just throwing a jig or a jig in a plastic or anything like that, because you're just targeting one area with that presentation. With pulling crankbaits or bottom bouncers, you're covering a much larger area. Now, it says, what are the best apps for checking pressure? I really wish there was an app out there that you could really check the pressure. And it's not a numerical value. The pressure is that, but it's the key in this is not watching a certain value when the pressure is over, let's say, 30 inches. It's the trend. What is actually the pressure doing? Is it rising or is it falling? On days when it's rising, it's going to be the worst. On days when it's falling, it's going to be the best. So the easiest way that you can be a closet weatherman, and we all are a closet meteorologist, the easiest way you can do that is by watching the wind. On days when the wind is out of the south or southwest, the pressure will begin to fall. On days when the wind switches around to the west, northwest, or the north, the pressure will be rising. It will be the highest at that point in time. So watch a flag. When you're driving to the lake or wherever you're going, watch if someone's got a flag up in their yard or anywhere around the school or anything like that. If that flag is pointing to the southeast, that wind is coming out of the northwest, that pressure is rising. You know that you need to change up your presentation, maybe downsizing it, or what I say, kamikaze fishing when you're out there on the ice. You drill plenty of holes looking for all those active fish. But if the flag is pointing to the northwest or northeast, the wind is out of the south, and that pressure will be falling. And so then you know that the fish will be on the prowl. They'll be hungry. And I'm not going to say that this is going to be 100% successful all the time, but you won't have to battle the weather influences at that time. You have other things just to be looking for at that point in time. And about the other question was, how about an east wind? Yeah, the east wind is kind of like an in-between stage. That's how the old saying got started, where the wind from the east, fish bite the least, is that the pressure is going to be basically high, but starting to come around. The wind is coming around from the north and coming around to the east, and then eventually to the south. And so basically the pressure is going to be stable. Now, I want to emphasize that the worst time that you can ever have is the day when the pressure is the highest, because that change in pressures went from low to high. Now, the longer that pressure stays at that level, meaning if it's there at the same height, at same level today, tomorrow, and the next day, that's fine. The pressure, the fish have basically accommodated themselves because the pressure is just that way. If it's the sudden change that really starts to impact your success out there. The longer that weather, and that's why we always say as fishermen, we'd like to have stable weather. Well, what we mean by stable weather is stable pressure. And so the longer that pressure is stabilized or stays at that level, the fish will accommodate themselves and start to reacclimate themselves and be on the prowl at that point in time. When we look at pressure, what kind of numbers are we logging? And that's, I kind of alluded to that. There's not one specific number, and that's where people really kind of get hung up at that point in time. Again, look for the change in pressure. And the way you can do that also is by looking at the forecast. You know, we in the National Weather Service, we don't issue pressure forecasts. We issue wind forecasts, though. And that's what you can do, is that if you hear that the wind is going to be out of the south, what's that mean, Gene?
It's dropping.
Yes, that means the pressure's falling. That means it's going to be in your favor. I'm just checking to see if you're awake or not.
I'm getting closer now. Yes, I'm trying to scribble notes, actually, because I know some people aren't going to be able to be here, and I hope we're recording it, but I'm trying to scribble notes too so that I can take a little. Yeah,
no, I understand. So yeah, when that wind is being forecast to be out of the south, that's when the pressure will be falling throughout the entire day. But if you've seen this in a weather forecast, we always say, well, the wind is going to be out of the south, but then later by mid-afternoon, it's going to switch around to the northwest. That means the cold front is going to be swinging through. And as that cold front pushes through the area, right before it gets to your location, that's when the fish are going to bite the best. But once that front passes through, the wind switch around to the northwest, the pressure is going to start to increase. Guess what? That fish pattern is going to change drastically because the pressure is starting to increase at that point in time. Now, I know that Pat asked, explain the east wind thing again. The east wind is just, again, the way the wind works is it's a difference between high and low pressure. That the wind will go from high to low pressure. It's like hills and valleys. Okay, a low pressure is a valley. High pressure is a hill or a mountain. And that wind will transfer from high to low pressure. And so again, it's just going to be. I wish I had a bottle of water, but I would say if I had a bottle of water and halfway full, if I tip that bottle of water up and down, sideways, or do whatever, the amount of water doesn't change, right? It's the same, no matter what position I hold it. It's the same thing with the atmosphere. The atmosphere is like water. That amount of atmosphere does not change. It just repositions itself from high to low. And so with the east wind, that wind is coming from that high pressure, and it's getting ready for that high to move from, let's say, North Dakota, and then it's going to shift over to Wisconsin. And as it does, the wind will start to come out of the east, and then making room for the low pressure coming in behind it from Colorado. And then eventually that will switch around to the south. So that's really, again, Pat, if I had told you more, I'd have to, claim that you're a meteorologist. And I don't know if you really want to have that title. So the main thing is, again, just be realizing that with that east wind, the pressure is starting to really stabilize, that it's becoming more and more of a stable pattern. It's not going to be as good as what a south to southwest wind will be, but still it will be pretty good.
So when we hear that out in the Dakotas, they got 40-mile-an-hour winds and it's coming our way in 2 days, we can kind of think that in 2 days, we're going to have a pretty good chance at those fish.
Yeah, there's not going to be much difference between us here in South Dakota and you in Minnesota. Okay, there's just not much of a geographical difference between the two. And so when we're talking about a south wind at 20 to 40 miles an hour, let's say in the summer or in the wintertime, who wants to be out there in a 20 to 40 mile an hour wind?
Right.
So you got to pick the time wisely when you think it's the safest to be out there. I know you won't find me out in any of our lakes in South Dakota with a 30 to 40 mile an hour wind because, again, there's nothing to stop the wind. But up in the northern part of the Minnesota, you got lakes surrounded by trees. You may not see the rough water at that point in time where, again, that doesn't matter about the pressure. The pressure's still falling. You're just not feeling the impacts, the safety impacts of that strong wind.
Right. Do you think there's a difference between how this affects, say, panfish versus muskie?
Yes.
Do the bigger fish respond differently?
Yes, we've seen that. We can't make any correlation really other than the fact that it seems like the ones that the perch family seems to be impacted the most. And I would throw panfish in there as well. Pike and muskie, honestly, it doesn't matter. You piss them off, they're gonna bite. It doesn't. There just doesn't seem to be any real target with them as far as pressure is concerned. But definitely with the perch family, the walleyes, there's definitely a huge impact with the pressure. Now I want to emphasize here when we're talking about ice fishing, since this is the season that we're in right now, the impacts of the change in pressure is amplified that much more during the wintertime compared to the summertime, because a lot of that water volume now is taken up with what? Ice.
Yeah.
And so now all that weight is pushing down and it's amplified that much more. That's why you're seeing those fish come up in that where in the summertime they would be impacted somewhat, but not to the degree that we're seeing in the wintertime, because the water volume is less compared to what it would be in the summertime. I will also say that the impacts or the effects of pressure is felt less on let's say a river system like the Mississippi or the Missouri, because that current is constantly changing. It's just moving all the time. It's not like a still solid water basin that most of our lakes are. And again, the deeper the lake, what we've also seen is that in Minnesota, it's a little bit different than what it is in South Dakota, because in South Dakota we have dishpan lakes. And for you guys in Minnesota, you have more glacial lakes, and so they're deeper. And so again, those impacts of the pressure changes will be felt, but not to the degree of a shallower body of water like what we see here in South Dakota.
Well, that is interesting.
Now, I see that Michelle's asked a question here. With high pressure and increased bladder size, do they tend to move deep or shallow, or does it not make it? Yes. I mean, when the pressure is the highest, they're moving deep. There's no doubt. They're moving into that deeper water. And I can't emphasize it enough, especially like Lake of the Woods is a perfect example of this. You fish up there during the ice season, and you're watching your electronics, your Vexilar or whatever you may have, and you just may see that bottom of that Vexilar right on the bottom just flicker just a little bit, and you know that tail is just swimming back and forth like that, and you know there's a fish there. And so you start seeing if it will come up to it, and nothing happens. And so they're just hugging that bottom. They're not suspended, okay? Mm-hmm. And some of the crappies and that, you may see them suspended in other bodies of water, but up in Minnesota, up in the Lake of the Woods, you're going to see those fish, those eel polyp, even the perch hugging the bottom on these high pressure days, because that pressure is so large and that bladder is just full, and they're just not hungry at that point in time.
Is that the same with the bass? Does bass it differently?
I'm not a bass fisherman, and I haven't come across anyone that has, but I do know that I've talked to some guys and they feel the same thing. But again, there's certain things that you can do, bass more top water, for open water season, ice season, it's a little bit different, but I can't emphasize that. I can't really speak to that too much, other than the fact is they all have air bladders, and all their air bladders will respond the same way. There's no difference between one species or the other, but that's where we said, okay, the smaller the fish, and will their bladder fill up that much more? No, because their bladder is just it's the same ratio as their body size. It's not like it's the same size air bladder in a bluegill as it is in a pike or a walleye.
Right.
It does change with the size of the fish.
Right. That makes sense.
Now, if you are looking for an app, well, like I said, the National Weather Service does not have a weather app, but we do have a website. And if I can, Gene, I'm going to try to present here.
Sure. Here,
Okay,
I will remove myself so that we make your screen a little bit bigger.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see here. I'm going to select a tab. Can you see that? Or are you just seeing me? Okay, I don't know if it's working here, quite honestly. I don't know why. Okay, Gina, I guess it's not working. You can come back in. I think I'm having a problem with my browser. But
there's been a lot of computer problems today, it seems.
Yeah, tell me about it, Neil. But I will tell you, if anyone wants to know the forecast, and this is the easiest way you can do this, is if you go to the National Weather Service website at weather.gov, not weather.com. Weather.com is the weather channel. Weather.gov is the National Weather Service, and you have a forecast for your exact location wherever you want to go. So when weather.gov comes up, you click on the location that you're interested in, you will be sent to the website of the nearest National Weather Service office in your location. Then you see a map of your area, let's say of the Minneapolis area or wherever it may be. Then you can zoom in, you can click on that area where you were planning on going fishing or outside recreating, doing whatever, and you'll get a detailed 7-day forecast. And on that detailed 7-day forecast, it will give you the wind direction and the wind speed, as well as the high and low temperature of each of those days. But if you scroll down further down to the bottom right of that page, you'll see something that's called an hourly weather forecast. And you can get the forecast hour by hour to see where we're expecting the winds to change direction, to increase in the wind speed. So then you can kind of plan your day accordingly on when we think that front is going to come through the area. Now, are we going to be perfect? Absolutely not. There's only one person that's in charge, and I always say I'm the Lord's reporter. I only try to predict the weather. I don't make it. Okay, so I'm not going to be perfect all the time, and nor am any of my counterparts going to be perfect 100% of the time. But again, that will give you some general guidelines on when we expect the winds to switch around from the southwest to the northwest, and when that wind speed or when the pressure is going to start to increase. So again, weather.gov. Click on the area of the United States that you're interested in, and you just keep zooming down until you get to the hourly forecast, and that will definitely help you out.
So we're really looking at wind direction and speeds and changes with that.
Yeah, that's how you can really tell the pressure, because again, since there's no forecast for pressure, the way that since pressure is creates the wind or causes the wind, that's where you can get a one-to-one direction or correlation between the wind direction and what the pressure is actually doing. Now, what I'd also recommend people to do is, my grandfather did this all the time. And honestly, I always said that the farmers were probably still are the best weather forecasters around, because they can look at the sky and try to figure out what's actually going to happen. Well, what my grandfather did when he was a farmer, and he's the one that introduced me to fishing, is he would have a journal. He would write down exactly what was going on, what the temperature was, what the clouds were, if it was windy or not. He didn't necessarily write down direction, and then what he was using and how many fish he caught, and the date that it was. And I always wondered why he was doing that. Was he just trying to keep notes? No, he was actually learning from the past, saying, okay, last time I was here, this is what happened. How is today different than the last time I was here? And then adjust his presentation, whether or not he, back then, 40, 50 years ago, you went from a red and white bobber to maybe a orange and yellow bobber. That's basically all the amount of tackle that you had. But still, you did try to change it up a little bit to make things a little bit more different than they otherwise would be.
So we talked a little bit how the sun makes a difference. This is a question from Jen. How the sun makes a difference on those bright bluebird skies, but what do the clouds do?
Well, the clouds are really created by the pressure again, by the advancing storm systems. And so, the more cloud cover you have or more storms you have in the area, the pressure will be the lowest. And so, those are the days, again, where people go, I really don't want to go fishing because it's a cloudy day. I want to sit out in the boat when it's sunny or doing whatever. Well, as I tell people, you go fishing when you can go fishing. Don't let the weather or whatever dictate it unless it's a safety factor. But when the clouds are forming and when you got clouds moving in, that's usually when the pressure is going to start to fall. And so that's some little clue that you could use to tell you that the pressure is falling. On days when there's just high, we call mare's tails, horse's tail clouds, high cirrus clouds way up in the sky. Those are the days when it's going to be the pressure is going to be the highest. And so again, you need to really start to think about how can I change up my presentations. And during the ice season, I downsize my jig. I go to a smaller tungsten jig, maybe change up my bait, go to more of a wax worm or a maggot presentation, or even maybe use plastics. And then in the summertime, I will start to go looking for those active fish, because you will find active fish. They may not be the size that you want, but they may be active at that point in time. And so you need to go looking for them. And the best way you can do that is in the summertime is pulling bottom bouncers with live bait or artificial bait, or pulling crankbait. So it's just, again, to cover more water than you otherwise would.
So in fishing, we hear a lot about the moon phase, especially like with those big predator fish. How does that relate to this pressure? Is there a correlation, you think?
No, there's no correlation to pressure. It's more of a moon phase, a tidal effect, and people say, oh, we don't have tides around here in the, we don't have close to oceans. Yeah, there is. We do have that. And that you're going to see that more than anything else. And there's people that will swear by it. I mean, if people were old enough that they can remember fishing calendars that had fishing phases that were going to be the best time to go out and fish. And that was all based upon that type of philosophy. It wasn't based upon pressure. It was based upon the tidal influences at that point in time.
Yeah. You still hear about that. You still have your fish finder, checker, weather, fish cast, they call it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And again, it's based upon those tidal influences, and it does work. There's certain times that if you want to catch a walleye, go out in the middle of the night when you have a full moon and everything else, and things line up, and you're going to have a great night. But it really doesn't have much influence on the pressure at all. But one thing we have thought of is that what is the greater influences? Let's say if the pressure is really high and you have a great tidal influence, which one's going to win out? We really never have tested that out completely. But it's really just been it's amazing to me, as many people are curious and how many people fish across the United States. The few people that really are, let's say, researching the influences that weather has on fishing, because again, like I said, this is one thing that you cannot control. You're a pawn with Mother Nature. It's going to move you wherever they want to, and you just have to try to figure out what's actually going on so that you can react in the appropriate way, because that's all you're doing. You're not going to be proactive. You're going to be reactive. But by paying attention on your way to the lake, and if you see the wind direction and you see that the pressure is a little bit high, then you can start thinking, okay, what can I do? If I'm starting to see fish come up and not interested and they go right back down, right then and there, I need to downsize immediately. And then try to find something else that may trigger a bite. Don't sit there and, I can tell you
the same thing.
Yeah, do the same thing. You learn from your past, learn from your
Mhm.
mistakes. And with my store, I can tell you that people come in. Well, just tonight, I just left the store at 7:00, and people were coming in and saying, all weekend long, fish were coming up, and they weren't interested and couldn't get them to bite. They'd say, well, okay, what did you do? How did you react to that? Well, what do you mean? I didn't move. I stayed in my same spot, and by God, I stuck with my lucky jig. And I'd say, well, how lucky was it when you didn't catch any fish? It's the thing that we are a creature of habit. And again, if in the summertime, if we're not catching fish in one spot in a boat, we wouldn't stay there the entire time, would we? We would be moving around. And that's where the whole mobility concept came in, with Dave Gens and the fish trap creation. It helped him become more mobile to go looking for those active fish. If you don't catch fish, if you're not in a pot of fish that is interested in eating within 30 to 45 minutes, move to some other part of the lake to find those active fish.
So that old theory about don't move to, when you're on fish, don't move to find more fish. But you're saying kind of the opposite. Like if they're not biting, move.
Yeah, I firmly believe in that, because what good is it going to do you? You can sit there and go home and say, hey, I was on a pot of fish all day long. Well, how many did you catch? None.
Yeah, but they didn't bite.
Yeah,
right.
So go out and I'm not saying leave them right away, but throw your arsenal at them, and do your best. But if after a period of time they're not interested in your bait or interested in biting, move on to a more active, let's say a different location to try to find those more active fish.
Yeah. So Pat's wondering about if it's true that the fish are less reactive when it's raining or snowing. It feels like that storm front comes in, that you got a flurry of action. Then it actually starts raining or snowing, and that flurry just cuts off. Is it that quick? Are they that reactive to that?
Typically not that reactive. Again, let's say in the summertime, when you are out in the boat, and also I have to say, with safety, that when you're out in the boat and you have thunderstorms approaching, the last thing you want to be is out in your boat at that point in time, right? You got lightning and everything else that you need to concern yourself with. And I hope people get off the body of water before the storms approach. But if you're out there in the body of water, there's many times when I'm up in Canada in the summertime that I'm fishing in the rain, because the lightning occurrences are not as great up in Canada as what we have down here in the U.S. In those cases when it's just raining, there's no lightning around. Really, there's the pressure is going to be lowest, but as that rain is starting to weaken, and it's hard to really relate. But as it's starting to kind of dwindle down, the pressure's starting to rise, because again, all that air is coming down out of that thunderstorm. Okay, the air is descending. That's what allows that rain to fall. And as that does, the pressure is rising, and as it's pulling away, the pressure's up high until again the effects of those storms are less felt, and then the main influence of let's say the pressure systems are impacted. Then are felt, then the pressure starts to recover and fall back down. So it varies from time to time, from event to event, on how big of a storm system it actually is. And in the wintertime with snow, a lot of times we will get the snow on the backside of a low pressure system. And the storms in the summertime will always be on the forward side of the storm. In the wintertime, it will be on the backside, where the winds are usually out of the north and northwest, and that's why your pressure is going to already be high. And so in the wintertime, when you start to see the snow falling, that your pressure is already high at that point in time. And so you are probably going to see that the fish are going to be a little bit less reactive, because the pressure is going to continue to increase as the snow continues to fall.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Christina asked, is there better times to dead stick versus active jigging? I think, in many cases, I think when the pressure is the highest, Christina, I think that's where I prefer dead sticking, especially, let's say, a Lake of the Woods. You can, a lot of times I'll have something down there and I'm jigging with let's say a buckshot spoon or anything like that, something that has a little bit more of a flash, a little bit more of a rattle to it. The fish will come in, but they're not interested in hitting that. And they're just not that hungry, but they may hit that dead stick. Just that subtle movement of that middle may be enough to trigger the bite. Not always, but again, that's where 9 times out of 10 that you'll notice that when the pressure is the highest, you can bring them in with an aggressive presentation like a jigging wrap or a ripping wrap or anything like that. But when they're going to bite, they'll probably hit that dead stick, such as even also a tip up. That's where a lot of times tip ups work really well because, again, it's a little bit more of a subtle presentation. It's just mainly maybe a hook in a middle or a hook in a chub or something like that. That's enough to trigger a bite. And
so again, when the pressure is rising, do you go deeper?
That's where I will try. But again, this is one piece of the puzzle. Because I've also seen the opposite, Gene, where I have seen some of the biggest walleyes hang out in the summertime in the shallows. They're just protecting themselves from the sun, so to speak, in the weeds, and they're just waiting for the bait fish to swim on by. And if they're interested, they'll go out and come and get it at that point in time. So typically I would go deeper, but again, I hate to overlook the shallows, especially in the heat of our dog days of summer, because those larger walleyes will hang out in the shallows no matter what. They're just, again, whether or not they bite or not, or they feed or not, that's the question.
So how did you get into fishing and weather and how did you start to put all of this together?
Boy, good question.
There's a story behind that?
Well, I can tell you this much. What got me interested in fishing was my grandfather. My grandfather, and I grew up in southwest Minnesota, as I mentioned, in a small town called Adrian. And he would take me crappie fishing in a lake called Lake Okabena in Worthington, Minnesota. And we would fish off a dock, and we would sit there and we would just talk. And I can't tell you how old we were at that time, or I was. I think I was probably 6 or 7, somewhere thereabouts. And he's the one that got me interested in fishing, and how it was just some way of escaping reality, and just enjoying time with loved ones, with my grandfather, my parents, and then now with my kids. And as I got older, I passed on that love for fishing to my kids, who now are also adults. But what also got me interested in weather is I've always had a fascination with watching thunderstorms. I am a tornado chaser. I've been chasing tornadoes since I was 15 years old enough to drive in Minnesota. But I was always watching thunderstorms as they came through, and watching the lightning since the 4th grade in elementary school. I had a teacher at that time. Her name was Alice Hansen. I remember it like it was yesterday that she saw that I had this fascination and love with weather, and she brought me over to the National Weather Service office here in Sioux Falls and introduced me to the people that eventually I became boss of, and which was an interesting play. But I get to do my hobby as my job, and that's with weather. The other problem is my hobby is my business, and you never want to open up a business that involves your hobby, okay? Because you don't get to do your hobby as much as you otherwise would.
Right. I can see that.
So, but yeah, I think the main thing what Pat was saying is trends. Exactly. The main thing is paying attention to what's really going on. It's not just one certain slice of time. It's really how has the weather changed from yesterday or today, and how has that pressure changed, and how has the wind direction changed. Again, don't get fascinated, get hooked up onto a specific number. Pat asked me if there's a blog connecting weather and fishing. There's been a lot of articles that people have done with me on the internet, and I also have a page on our website at dakotaangler.com that talks about weather and fishing. But all you have to do is you Google Todd Heitkamp and fishing and weather and fishing, and it's going to come up all over the place. So again, I don't try to really do it too much, because being a federal employee, I have to be careful of the possible perceived conflict between weather and taking my weather information and using it for fishing. So I got to be, a little bit careful with that. And so that's why I don't really go out and write articles or anything like that. People, I do presentations such as this, kind of informal, or I get invited to go wherever to talk about it. But the main thing I want to do is make people more aware of, weather is important, but it's all, on your day-to-day lives, but it's really important when you're out there wanting to enjoy days on the water or on the ice. What did Dawn say here, Gene?
Well, she's wondering about if the ice on the lake affects the pressure. You touched on it briefly.
It doesn't affect the pressure.
Expand a little more on that.
Yeah, it doesn't affect the pressure, but it affects the impacts or the effects of the pressure on that body of water. The thicker the ice, the more weight is being pushed down on that body of water, and it's taking up more volume. So if you can remember my analogy of the water in the bottle, the amount of water doesn't change, but if I start to freeze that bottle, the volume of that water changes dramatically, and so any effects on it, it will actually start to crush that bottle, right? As it starts to freeze, it brings that bottle in closer, and that's what's really is going on with that body of water, such as that lake, is that when that lake starts to freeze, the water volume starts to shrink or decrease, I should say, and then any change in pressure is amplified that much more because there's less water volume at that point in time. So it's amplified that much more, especially in a shallow body of water, such as a slough or anything like that, what we see here in our glacial lakes area of South Dakota. But in a deeper body of water, such as Lake of the Woods, it's affected and it's felt, but not to the degree that it's felt in a smaller body of water and a shallow body of water.
When you say shallow, what are you like? What comes to my brain is like Red Lake,
Yeah. Even when I fished Red Lake, and I've been out there in some nasty conditions on a sleeper, and we had blizzard conditions, and that's when all of a sudden we caught the biggest crappies at all those times, and so that's when the pressure was falling at that time. But once the pressure started rising, they were done. So again, I would say Red Lake is probably one of the shallow bodies of water in Minnesota that would have that effect. But I mean, here in South Dakota, we're talking 8 to 9 feet, as the deepest part of the lake. And that's where those really start to feel those impacts. Sure.
You had 3 feet of ice on top of that.
Yes, exactly. Finally, we have that amount of ice after the past couple of years. We haven't had that, so.
So what about these, Lisa has a question about multiple heavy rain days, like multiple days of rain. Do all these rules still come into play, or does that change things?
That now we're talking about a different influence at that point in time, because the amount of rain that falls into a body of water, that starts to stir up the water, such as also the wind. We talk about the wind. If I asked a question such as, if the wind was blowing into the shore toward the north, where would you fish in the summertime? Most of the time, people would say they'll get a fish on the calmer side of the lake. Well, guess what? That's probably not where the fish are going to be hanging out at. There's probably going to be some there, but they're going to be up where the feed, the bait fish and that is being pushed up into the windward side of that body of water. And so that has a role to play. Also, when you're talking that amount of rain falling and all that water coming into that body of water from the sky, it's mixing up that lake. It's kicking up all these smaller body, smaller insects, smaller zooplankton, all that stuff, where the fish is going to start to feeding on that, where they're not going to be as hungry because, number one, there's plenty of food around them. They don't need to bite on your minnow or whatever it may be at that point in time. So there's other things that are coming into play there other than weather. Or I should say other than pressure.
Yeah. We talked a lot about wind, but what about those days when we have a wind out of the west for days on end? Do the fish eventually adjust and start to bite, or do they just?
No, they adjust pretty quick. I would say if the pressure, let's say the front comes through today, the toughest day fishing will be the next day following that front passage. In other words, tomorrow. And then after that, the longer that wind stays out of that same direction, the pressure will equalize. It will stay the same, and the fish will adjust. Their bladders will adjust, and they'll go back to the normal pattern. So it's, again, like as Pat was saying earlier, it's the change or the trends. It's the adjustment of that pressure and how the fish adjust to it at that point in time. But usually you'll feel the biggest impacts of that pressure the next day following a cold front passage.
Well, that's good information to have.
Yeah, again, you can when you're talking about cold fronts, all it is that when the wind is out of the southwest, the cold front is to your west. If the wind switches to the north and northwest, the cold front is to your east. And so that's always kind of a little bit of again, closet weather guy type of thing, but you're all of us are on the body of water. Pay attention to what's going on. You start to see clouds billowing, getting taller. Thunderstorms are starting to develop, and you know that the pressure is falling at that point in time. All things, again, keep your eye on the sky. As I tell you, people, the good Lord doesn't try to fool you. He puts everything up there for you. You need to figure out what's actually taking place.
Right, and pay attention.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So we do have to start wrapping it up here shortly, Todd. I'm just curious if you saw that video of the methane coming up from under the ice and blowing up the hub. Did you see that?
I did not see that. I've heard about it. I did not hear anything about that. It would be interesting to find out really what's causing that. I would say there's something else going on at that point in time.
Yeah. A couple of our members were curious if you knew anything about that.
No, I don't know anything about the methane that's going on in there or whatever, but something I'm curious on. I'll have to take a look at and follow up with that at all. But Gene, I appreciate the time that you guys have given me. This is a lot of information in a short period of time, and so all I ask people to do is to keep their minds open, pay closer attention to the weather, look at the weather forecast, and then again keep a journal. And say, oh my God, that weather guy, he was right, or that did make sense. And then feel free to send me an email. You can get my email address off our website at dakotaangler.com. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that anyone may have at that point in time. I invite you guys to come to the Ice Institute, which is the first weekend in November, and I'd be more than happy to introduce myself and answer your questions at that point in time too. But I'm here as a resource. I don't have any information I keep to myself. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for being a part of our organization here tonight. I think everybody is very thankful that you came and talked, and we really appreciate that you took some time here to spend with us this evening.
Well, again, thanks for the invite, and good fishing. Hopefully, everyone has a great ice season, great open water season, and best of luck to everyone. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Todd.
You bet. Take care.
Hey, Gene. Wow, that was really something, wasn't it?
Yeah, that is just amazing stuff. I hope everybody wrote down his email. I'm pretty sure he will help answer if we have any more.
Yeah, I think if you just Google Dakota Angler, you can get his email that way. But yeah, I really found it interesting. It's almost like, when I'm fishing or thinking about it, I'm thinking about the wind, the sky, the color, all these other things. And it's really trend, pressure trend. Is it going up? Is it going down? How fast is it going up? How fast is it going down? How long has it been stable? I think if you pay attention to that and then say maybe layer on top of that some of the other stuff, moon phase if you're going after the big fish, that kind of stuff. So yeah.
I didn't realize how much the wind played a factor in the barometer. I mean, I know they're both important, but I didn't really know that they were interconnected like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very interesting. I'm going to have to really start thinking about that and putting it together when I'm out fishing.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And to know, I've seen people buy those little barometers that you can take on the boat.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
And well, it turns out that's pretty worthless.
Yeah.
Because it's the trend over days that you're really looking for. I mean, you can see a storm coming, so the pressure is changing, but the number on the barometer doesn't make a difference. It's the change.
Right.
So And
Well, if
those
you
little
see a
ones,
storm coming, it's too late. You've already missed it.
right? Well, I think that's about it. Are you ready to say goodnight? And I'll hit
Yes,
the
I
goodbye button.
am. Thanks everybody for coming, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope we all got some information we can take away here this evening.
Michelle just said, Pat, you must have been in heaven as a weather buff. Yeah, I kind of was. Kind of was.
Oh, that's
All
fun.
right. Good night, everybody.
See ya.
Stay safe out there.